So, Tennessee Titans fans, where do you stand? Where do you stand? What philosophy do you adopt going into this draft? There seems to be four options of what the Tennessee Titans can do in the first round of the draft with the first pick. They could take a quarterback. They could take Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. They could, option two, take Abdul Carter, edge rush guy. More of a sure thing, probably. The third option, they could draft Travis Hunter, wide receiver / corner, but wide receiver especially something that they really need. Or number four, they could make every effort in the world to trade back, acquire more draft capital, not only in this draft, but the next year's draft as well. Probably still get one of those guys that I just named, whichever one is still there, depending on how far back they go, and you have draft capital for the future. What is your preferred route? What I will say is that you can make a case for any of these, and quite a good one. If you tell me that you think the Titans should draft Abdul Carter because you just watched the Super Bowl the other night and you watched the Philadelphia Eagles defensive front absolutely dominate the game, if you told me that you have watched time and time again in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl and in the regular season how a defensive front can take over a game and neutralize even the best of the best quarterbacks, I buy that. I mean, it's true. We just watched it the other night in the Super Bowl with Philadelphia. And if that's your basis behind why you would like to draft Abdul Carter, I'm not going to get mad at you. I think that's very valid. If your basis behind wanting to draft Travis Hunter is that the only guaranteed wide receiver we have coming back next year is Calvin Ridley, and he's going to be 31, I guess, years old, you need some youth, you need some speed, you need some explosiveness. Most people agree Travis Hunter is the best player in this draft, and he could potentially give you some help in the secondary as well if you were to get some work in at corner. And so that brings some life, that brings some juice, that brings some explosiveness to the offense. I buy that. I buy that too. The Titans need that too. If you tell me you want the Titans to draft Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders because you believe in one of those two guys to come in, you've seen what Jaden Daniels did for Washington. You've seen what C.J. Stroud did for Houston. You've seen what Joe Burrow did for Cincinnati. And you want to see a young quarterback bring some life to this organization. You believe, especially maybe even in a guy like Cam Ward, that he can come in here and he can bring that just explosive, off schedule, can make something out of nothing type play to the Tennessee Titans, and there's nothing more important than having a great young quarterback. I buy that too. If you want to tell me that the Titans have so many holes on the roster that trading back makes the most sense because you need more picks. The Titans want to have 12 top 100 picks in the next 3 years. You could trade back. You could trade back and still get one of these guys, depending on how far you trade back. It's just not a guarantee because then you would have people in front of you. You could absolutely, that sounds like a good idea too. That sounds like any of these you could talk me into. Every one of these arguments hold weight. Every single one of these arguments makes sense. And that's what drives me nuts when I get on X, when I get on TikTok, when I get on YouTube every day, and I see people jumping down each other's throats as if there's one clear-cut way to fix what's wrong with the Tennessee Titans. People jump down my throat. People might have jumped down your throat that are watching this for stating that you think the best course of action is to try to bolster up the defensive front. The best course of action is to go get the best player in the draft. Travis Hunter can come in and bring some youth to the wide receiver room. The best path is to get a young quarterback who can come in and revitalize the organization. The best path is to trade back so you can get more picks and get more good talent over the next few years. Every one of those arguments holds weight. There's evidence that any of those arguments are valid and could work for the Titans. And it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. it is a bad thing that we're in this position where we are so bad that we have the number one pick in the draft and we have all of these different things that we have to do. But considering the situation that we're in as the Tennessee Titans, it's good that you really can make a case that any direction is the right direction. Whether you decide to go Hunter, Carter, Sanders, Ward, trade back, no matter which route you go, you can argue it can be the right thing for the organization. Absolutely. If you are able to get Abdul Carter, and then in the second round, you get an offensive tackle. And then now you have a third round pick, maybe because you traded back to get Abdul Carter. And then in the third round, you can get a wide receiver. You are addressing major needs on this roster left and right. I'm not going to say you're going to be able to get to all of them this offseason, but you can get to a large chunk of them. And where did the Titans say they want to improve this team? They don't want to do what they did last offseason. They don't want to go to free agency and sign 12,000 billion different guys. They want to build this team up through the draft because everybody wants to do that. Nobody wants to be a team full of just darts thrown at the wall trying to hope these free agents that couldn't make it work somewhere else can make it work here. You want to draft guys like we did with Jeffrey Simmons, like we did with A.J. Brown, like we did, with Taylor Lewan, like we did with Derrick Henry. You want to draft guys, Kevin Byard, that can come in and be cornerstones of your organization. I don't think the Titans will be as active in free agency this go around as they were last year. They want to build this up through the draft. And so because there are so many holes to fill on this team, there's really not a bad place to start. Wide receiver, edge rush, and quarterback, and offensive tackle. Those are the big four. Those are the big four needs on this team. Those are the things that have to be addressed first and foremost. We can get around to defensive tackle depth. We can get around to offensive line depth. We can get around to tight end. We can get around to that stuff eventually. But first, we've got to acknowledge the big four. Wide receiver, edge rush, quarterback, offensive tackle. We have to acknowledge those four. Four of the most important positions on a team. And so, because those are the big needs, any route the Titans choose to go, you can make a case that it's the right route. I suppose you can make a case it's the wrong route too. But we're going to have to do something that might not come naturally to us anymore. We're going to have to trust that the Tennessee Titans front office, Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker and all the scouts know what they're doing and that they're going to do the right thing. And if you don't trust that, I don't blame you because of the way things have gone the last few years. We're going to have to trust. But there's no point in jumping down each other's throats and saying, your way is the wrong way, your way is the stupid way. Listen, we don't know that. We don't know that. You could make a case that any of these could be the next best step toward fixing what's wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments. Tighten up.